Hi y'all, and welcome back to my channel. And I'll start this video out with saying, if you like this look here, I did film a get ready with me, and hopefully if I remember, I will leave that link down below so you can see how I achieved this pinky purpley gloriousness. But today we are actually going to be doing another beauty tag video. I've been really enjoying doing these. I would love it if y'all would put down some makeup tag videos down below. Ones you would like to see me do, ones that you would suggest, because I've been really enjoying doing them on my channel. And I'm sometimes not as diligent as I could be in like watching them and seeing which ones are coming out and everything like that. I'm also thinking about redoing my beauty consumer tag video now that I've been much better on my low buy. Let me know down below if you guys would be interested in seeing me do that again. But today we are going to be doing the eyeshadow palette collection tag. I actually saw this video done first on Makeup by Unky's channel. I love her so much. She does some of the most beautiful eyeshadow looks. She's all pink and blue and purpley and just all kinds of wonderfulness. She was actually one of the first YouTubers that I actually subscribed to, because I was just so inspired by her makeup content. She's just so good at doing fantastic dynamic eyeshadow looks. So that's where I first saw it. But apparently it was created by, I'm so sorry if I butcher this, Angelica Lyramar. I am so sorry. I will leave their correlating channel and videos down below. There aren't that many questions. There are just 8 questions, and it's just talking about different eyeshadow palettes in your collection. Some that I talk about, if I have, I will pull them up. Others, if I don't have them with me, I will put a magical fancy edited picture in here so you can see what I'm talking about. So without further ado, let's just get talking into some eyeshadow palette-y, detail-y goodness. Okay, the first one is, if I would pick an eyeshadow palette in my collection that represents me, in parentheses, color story. Now y'all may not know what palette I'm gonna be pulling up, but I have a feeling you all know what kind of color story it's gonna be. Leave down a colored heart of the type of color you think it's gonna be. Because obviously for me and my whatevers, I know exactly what color story adequately represents me as a human being. Let's see if I can narrow it down to one palette. I don't know if this is cheating. I'm a terrible person, but I couldn't bring it down to just like one palette. But we'll start off with the most obvious one. Got the Just My Luck by ColourPop, which was honestly the start of something beautiful. It was this, as well as the, excuse me, crucify me, do whatever you want to do to me, the Jeffree Star Alien palette, because that one had that bomb diggity green shimmer and those purple mattes, you know, but this as well was start of something beautiful in my love of green. But y'all know I love all kinds of green. I love grungy greens right here. I love even grungier, darker, deeper beautifulness right here. Got this one right here. I like dark, decadent, delicious greens going on right here. I like lighter, more punchy, neon-y type crazy greens, yellowiness going on right here. And I love these kind of greens going on all up in here. I don't know if I could pick one palette and say, this is my color story. This is the only. I would have to literally take different greens from all my varying green palettes and smush them together, and that would be like my me palette representing me in a color story, because I love so many of my green palettes for different reasons. So to get that true absolute favorite love, end all be all, this is me, it would require the destruction and redistribution of several different green palettes. These were by far just a few examples of green. I've got the crayon case one that was sent to me. I've got Give Me Glow eyeshadow palettes, you know, at home. The Juicy Olive, that's an absolutely amazing green color story. I've got the BH Cosmetics Pistachio palette. You know, I love green. It started off with red. It started off with pink. I was like, pink is so edgy and amazing. And then I was like, red eyeshadow is a thing. And then green. And green is probably my end all be all favorite color. Color for like my eyes, and it's probably one of my favorite colors, even though I don't really wear it. Green is just, I love it. It's so opulent. It's so edgy. It can be so many different things. So I couldn't narrow it down to one palette, but absolutely, most definitely green. 2. If I would pick an eyeshadow palette in my collection that represents me, in parentheses, packaging. Now, I don't know if y'all are gonna come to a conclusion on this one, because when it comes to packaging, I can go like one of two ways, but currently within my collection, the packaging that probably represents me, who I am right now the most, would have to be the Manny MUA Lunar Beauty Moon Spell palette. I mean, it's got a beautiful color story. It could definitely do something like this. It's got the green and the purple and that palette, so beautiful. But one of the things that made it so absolutely fantastic was the glorious dedication to packaging and overall aesthetic that Manny had to this collection. I mean, that's one of the reasons I love his company so much, is because every time he releases something, the aesthetic works well within itself, as in like as a brand aesthetic, but when he does each of the individual, the aesthetic is so like concrete in all of them. Like the Greek Goddess one had that, the Strawberry Dreams one, the Eternal Eclipse or whatever thing like that, the Moon Spell, but the Moon Spell just with that black book-like packaging with all symbolism and the typography, and just so beautiful, so inspiring. Probably one of my favorite, because it's not like ostentatious in the sense of like, oh, it's bulky or it's got all these like kitschy elements to it. No, it's a simple cardboard, paperboard eyeshadow palette construction, you know, just open and close that bad boy. But all over it, just the decoration and the way that it flowed and the way that it looked as a focal piece, the fact that it's made to look like a book, you know, the whole like, you know, grimoire sort of aesthetic that it's going for, I just absolutely love. I really do think that Lunar Beauty is one of those like they're established and everything like that. I don't consider them up and coming anymore, but I think they're sitting on some kind of popularity explosion that I think is going to happen sometime soon, because the aesthetics are solid, the formulations are solid, the color theories, it's just, he produces really good stuff. And I absolutely adore that packaging, and it's definitely a really accurate representation of me as I am now. 3. If I would pick an eyeshadow palette in my collection that represents spring. Now, I admit I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, well, you wear these colors in spring and these colors in fall and winter and summer. I just wear whatever the flip I want, whenever the flip I want. But kind of not gonna lie, there's also that whole inner thing where you see a certain selection of colors together. You're like, oh, why yes, that looks like a very good spring-themed palette, or that looks like a holiday-themed release. You know, despite the fact that I wear whatever I want 24/7, 365 days of the year, doesn't mean that we don't have those innate, you know, visual cues that we see. And so if we're gonna be talking about spring, I immediately thought of the ABH Norvina Palette 4. I feel like this is a super underrated palette of the Norvina ones. I love the orange and green one, do not get me wrong, but this one is just so beautiful. I did do a get ready with me. I don't know if I did a review, but I will leave whatever down below about any of these palettes. If I talk about any palette, I've done a review, or look with, or get ready with me, I will leave it down below. But this one just has such a level of, for some reason, this to me does seem spring. I don't know if it's the pale packaging. I can't remember if this was released in spring, but you've just got these beautiful, gorgeous like pinkies and soft, but you can also go like deep and romantic. I mean, I just really, really, really love the collection. I believe this was supposed to be the like fancier, pinkier, whatever of the, was it the Soft Glam palette, which is one of my favorites, or is it the, because looking at this, you all know I love Soft Glam, and I'm trying to recall if this one was supposed to be like the Norvina extension of Soft Glam. It actually looks like to me that this is a better version, more curated extension of the Anastasia Beverly Hills original Norvina palette, the one in the kind of purpley periwinkle velour packaging. This looks like a better version of that one because I was reminded of that pink, and it also had some of these tones. So I'll try to remember. I'll look and see if I can find out if this was supposed to be the Soft Glam extension, or if I'm, having some kind of bizarre flashback where it was an extension of the Norvina palette. I would definitely leave that shiz down below. But to me, like I said, this is an absolutely beautiful, perfect spring palette. It also makes me think of like prom and wedding vibes because you can really go so beautifully rosy or go softly neutral. I actually don't despise this pressed glitter. This one I hate, but this one's not that bad. That's a lot coming from someone who absolutely does not advocate for any kind of pressed glitter. But this really, actually pulling this out now and looking at it, I'm like, this is pretty. I want to use this. I love this B5 right here. C5 is beautiful. A2. This is just, I adore how multi-purposeful it is with the variation of pinks that goes so well with the selection of neutrals. This I love. It makes me think very springy, very whatevery. I'm not sure what I would do with it, but everything else I do really enjoy. The shimmers are beautiful. This really just for some reason says to me spring. I don't know why, and now that I've pulled it out, I want to use it some more because this is so pretty. And I have been on kind of a, despite what you see on my face right now, I have been on kind of a neutral kick. So maybe I'll definitely have to pull this out and put it somewhere so I can see it and use it. Because that C5 and B2, those reddy, rosy, maroony, that's going to be pretty. All right. What is it? 4. If I would pick an eyeshadow palette in my collection that represents happy. And this one I had to think about because I was like, okay, do we look at it and we're like, oh, it's happy because it inspires me. Oh, I'm happy because it's a beautiful color story. Oh, I'm happy because the formula is amazing. Or is it like a sentimental, emotional, like, oh, this eyeshadow palette makes me happy because it reminds me of this. So I kind of decided to go with the triple threat where it makes me happy because of the formulation. It makes me happy because of the color story, and it makes me happy because it reminds me of something. And that is actually one that one of you all sent me. Let me draw your attention to this section right here. This is the Danny's Delight eyeshadow bundle from Sydney Grace. I saw this, I believe, on, I always call her Angelica because I think that's what her Twitter handle is, but Angelica Nyquist, I'm so bad. I watch her videos. I love her. You'd think I'd know how to pronounce her name. But I remember one time she posted this on Instagram, and I remember looking at it being like, oh yeah. Because it was this absolutely beautiful green color story. I remember her posting it being like, oh, it's an indie, whatever. And for some reason, it just never happened. And then I got an absolutely random package from one of y'all that included things from Sydney Grace and this bundle right here. And words could not express the like phantasm of emotions I was feeling when I realized what it was. And I remember I messaged them and I was like, you have no idea what you just did for me. Like this palette, this thing here was like one of the ones that got away. This is one of my absolute favorite end all be all green themed collection of eyeshadows. I love them so much. There's not a single one I haven't used and I don't love. I mean, I also love my Give Me Glow here too, but this one right here, and the formula, so it makes me happy. It brings me happy in color theory, green wise. It brings me happy because it was such a thoughtful present from one of y'all. And then the formula, absolutely amazing. I think is it this one right here? No, not this one. Then it must be this one. Yes, this one here in Honeydew. One of my absolute favorite end all be all greens. It is just, this little thing here radiates happy on so many levels. I've used it so many times. It's one of my favorites. It's gorgeous. It was a beautiful gift from one of y'all. So that little section of eyeshadows just seethes with like happy energy. And I will forever be so grateful to the person who sent me this, because it was just like the realization that I was like, oh, they sent me some green. They sent me some green eyeshadow. The realization of when that hit was just such a wonderful moment. It was sent to me while I was here in Tennessee dealing with my grandfather. There was just a lot of things that go into that being, you know, representing happy. 5. If I would pick an eyeshadow palette in my collection that represents the dark, grungy in me. I mean, y'all probably know the eyeshadow palette that's gonna be for this. I could have put this one in the green palette roundup as well, but the Milk Cosmetics Gemini palette. This palette represents to me, about me, everything I could want for these greens and these neutrals. Like this here is like my dream neutral palette. I love it. I love the dark, mustardy, grungy greens. I love the browns. I love the fact that they include a black so that you can really go to town on this shiz. The shimmers, there's only 2. They're amazing. Like, this is honestly a palette I do need to pull out for. I've actually got some nice dips in Fire OG. I've got a good dip in Leo right here. I've got a good dip in Lorelei. And so it's a palette that I actually use a lot, but looking at it, kind of like the ABH one, I'm like, I need to pull you out some more. I need to figure out, when I get back to Virginia, when I have all my makeup in one place, I'm gonna be doing Shop My Stashes monthly again, because I go through it, I'm like, that's pretty. I haven't used you in a while, but you're so pretty. You know, rather than pulling for the same, 10, 12 palettes every time. But this one, to represent the deep, dark, amazing, grungy part of me, absolutely perfect. Y'all know I love this palette so much. This was another one of those ones that really cemented my love and my obsession with green eyeshadow. I don't know what it is. I have never been drawn to green like as a color. Like anytime growing up, they're like, what's your favorite color? It was the green never showed up. And now when it comes to, if I'm putting it on my eyes, I'm putting it on my lips, I'm wearing green wigs, if I'm putting it, on my nails, I love green, like I said, which is kind of funny. So this is definitely the dark grungy palette. 6, if I would pick an eyeshadow palette in my collection that represents the girly in me. I mean, y'all know if I'm not going like hardcore coven situation, I'm also kind of like bubblegum kawaii princess attempty. I honestly had to think about this one a little bit, because it's not that I don't consider myself like girly. It was like, I guess trying to like, I don't know, gender one of my eyeshadow palettes. I'm like, okay, which one of you represents feminine? And I actually came to the conclusion for like packaging as well as like eyeshadow vibes. This is the Venus XL Original. Got the Birth of Venus by Botticelli right here. If there's something that exudes, I don't know if girly is the right word, but if there's something that exudes, pretty femininity, this is spot on the money. And then you go inside and you have, this is again, I brought this with me to Tennessee to obviously try to use, but I haven't used it. I need to use it. Yeah, I'm definitely going to pull this one out and use it, because that Botticelli shade right there is screaming to be on my outer V. And I guess this palette just sort of with the names, you've got like Eden, Aphrodite, very ethereal, otherworldly, and vaguely threatening. You know, scallop, goddess, inspire, passion, love, flora. You know, it's just all these things that kind of make it very romantic, make it very feminine, make it very girly. And usually, oftentimes when I do these kind of looks, you know, with this kind of color theory right here, I do feel a bit more, I don't know, just girly. You know, I don't have a lot of like I don't have a lot of Too Faced anymore. I'm not sure if there's a lot of my eyeshadow palettes that I would consider girly. But this one I thought hit the mark pretty well for me. I do really love this palette. Like I said, I need to bring this shiz out more. The only shade in here which I think is lame is Blank Canvas, because that is a pasty setting shade if I ever saw one. But other than that, a very nice, a very beautiful, very, I feel, fits the theme for this question. It was honestly either this one or the Natasha Denona Love palette, which kind of has a similar vibe. I have said that it's kind of the more sophisticated, mature, grown-up version of this palette and Jeffree Star's Blood Sugar. But because this one had the added, I don't know, edge of the packaging, it just kind of, it usurped the Natasha Denona one in presentation. 7. If I would pick an eyeshadow palette, can you not, in my collection that represents fun. I probably would have done the Jeffree Star Jawbreaker palette, but because we don't put his products up here on the channel anymore, we're gonna have to, what represents fun? I feel like I'm being a one-trick pony with these because it's another ABH Norvina palette, but this is the third one, and I mean, does that not just look fun? I love this one. I love the greens. I love the oranges, the yellows, the purples. I mean, these three shimmers, let's see here, this one, and this one, 3 of my absolute favorite shimmers. I love the purples. I used this in my Get Ready With Me that I did with Keek's Beauty Corner. I will leave that video down below, as well as, and she's linked in that video, and we both picked one of these and we did a look with it, and I need to pull it out again and do another look with it because I love this is C5 right here shade. It's got such beautiful reflex in it, but this is just, it screams fun to me. I love all the colors that go together. I love the neutrals that you can work in with those crazy colors. I love E2. I love C4. I love E5. It's just, like I said, it's a lot of fun. And this one just kind of like, this is one that I look at where I'm like, oh, well, it's curated, but it's not like crazy concise curated. So you can be pretty creative with it while, you know, like I said, it's concise without being really, really tightly, like kind of just tightly together. You've got some leeway to just do kind of what you want with it. And I think it's just, and the butterflies, I mean, is this just not, how shall I say, fun? Like, this is the fun friend. This is the friend that wants to go out with drinks. This is the friend that tells you treat yourself. Like I said, this is the fun friend. Then last but certainly not least, 8. If I would pick an eyeshadow palette in my collection that represents inspiration. When I wrote these questions down, I immediately knew the answer to this question. Let's see if any of y'all can guess. I've talked about it a lot on my channel. It is one of my end-all be-all holy grails, and that would have to be the Viseart Grand Pro 3. I mean, anytime I look at this palette, I get all kinds of bothered, and it's just so... I love this palette. You all know I do not like advocating for super expensive bougie makeup lightly. I don't like doing that because this is super pricey. But believe me when I tell you that from the first moment the eyeshadow in this palette graced my lids, I have never looked back. I have even gone so far as to buy the first one. Haven't done the third one, I mean the second one, because it's all shimmer, but just, this is just everything I could want in a palette. It's brightly colored, it's all matte, it is formulated to what I believe to be absolute perfection. When I see this palette, it just reminds me of why I love color, of why I love mattes, why I love the artistry of playing with makeup. It is just like if I'm having a bad day and I'm like, makeup sucks, I don't like makeup, I'm never gonna do makeup again, I look at this palette and it's just like, bitch, you thought you were never gonna do makeup again, but behold. And I love it. I love it with worth every single overpriced penny. And again, looking at this, I'm like, oh, F me up with that. Like, I need to do this right. Why have I not done that? It's just so beautiful. That's it. I'm pulling you out and I am going to use you. The only default I have is the fact that these are super easy to pull out. I feel like they're kind of meant to put into your own palette because this is professional grade makeup. And I'm like, if it's professional grade makeup, maybe don't do the packaging here and charge me a little bit less. But regardless of that, you know, even with what they charge, it's just, words cannot express the level of love I have for this, and I am pulling this out of the drawer and we're gonna do some loveliness with this. Absolutely one of the most inspiring palettes, not just color theory wise, not just because they're all mattes, but because they are also formulated so dang good. Absolutely adore this palette. All right, so that is actually the end of that. Kind of like all the other tag videos I've been doing, I used to not be a big like beauty tag person, but now I've been really enjoying them. Maybe it's the introspection, the kind of fact that it's taking makeup and going deeper than just surface level. And y'all know that's something that I've been enjoying. Would love to hear some of y'all answer these questions. Tell me what your answers would be for some of them. Let me know what you think about the palettes I talked about. You know, what would your choice be? I love hearing about what y'all love. I love trying new things that you guys love. I really hoped you enjoyed this, but thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and as always, keep it real. Mwah!